Hi, coach. Oh, wait. I can hear you. I think you're still muted. Or
There we go. There we go.
yeah, there we go. Yeah.
How we doing?
How are you doing in the epicenter of the coronavirus in the USA?
Oh, you know what? I'm excited, man. It's been 32 days since I've left my place at all, so I haven't done anything as far as leaving this place. So I'm stuck here and enjoying it.
Uh,
How's things for you?
yeah, it's actually there. Next Tuesday, we're gonna have a new press conference, and we hope that, or at least I hope that we got some, like that the measures are taking a little bit more like a lighter version of it. But we have to figure it out and wait to see. But
Yeah.
yeah, out here at least the numbers are dropping, but furthermore we have to see. I see we got Coach Ryan also in the
Ciao,
call.
coach.
Perfect. I'll wait a couple more minutes. How are you doing over there, Coach Ryan?
Tired.
Tired?
Tired, but just had espresso, so we will see. We will see what happens.
Perfect. I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes for the guys to.
You're in Belgium. Where are you at?
No, I'm in the Netherlands right now.
Okay.
But I'm also doing some things with elite athletes in Belgium. Yes,
Gotcha.
so that's a 1 hour drive for me. So that's not a big deal.
Very nice. I almost lived in Holland,
Where?
Den Bosch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's a
I really want to I really wanted to live there, and I think it's such a great country, and that was such a great organization, and just in general I love living in Europe. I love coaching in Europe. I love European basketball.
and then you went to the States.
Yes. Then I went to the States, to the G League.
Yes. No, actually, because it was funny that I spoke to Liam Flynn when he was here with in Antwerp with Hapoel Jerusalem,
Mm-hmm.
and there he mentioned, yeah, I was able to get to Hapoel when you and Coach Ryan left. So
Yes. Yep. Yep.
So for everybody that already joined, if you have any questions during this call, please put them in the chat. Make sure your blue button is on everybody so we can all see it. And I will try to fire them to Coach Jimmie and Coach Ryan.
Oh, Coach Gaspar's on, huh? That's the guy you need to get on here with the best post sets in Europe.
Oh, for real? Yeah,
Ooh,
I'm
he
more than
runs,
happy to take him up to it.
he runs some high level shit to get the ball into the post.
Yeah, we got some great guys that wanted to see both of your presentations. So We got some. We got people from all over the world. I see Coach Chico Coronel joining as well.
His fast draw PDFs are high level. A
Yeah.
lot of time put into that. A lot of time.
No, I had him on in like the second Zoom call out here with the pick and roll stuff together with Liam Flynn and other guys, Daniel Sokolovsky and guys like that. That was a great call. All right, it's 9 o'clock out here, but different time for everybody. So let's get it started. So first of all, I would like to introduce both of the speakers out here. We got Coach Jimmy Oakman joining from New York, working at the Brooklyn Nets and the Long Island Nets, and we got Coach Ryan Pannone joining as the head coach of the Erie BayHawks. First of all, this call will be about rebounding, just a little introduction. After that, Coach Jimmie will take you up on some rebounding from the defensive perspective. And after that, we got a little presentation from Coach Ryan. So first of all, it already raised some doubt about rebounding and skills. Is it a skill? Do you train it? And do you see it as a skill? Coach Ryan, could you elaborate a little bit more on that? Do you see it as a skill or?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously there's an athleticism purpose to rebounding, right? And there's a height purpose and a length purpose. But there's absolutely a skill to rebounding. You know, you have some rebounders that are just taller, more athletic, longer than everyone. Then you have guys that have a skill set into it. And so, you know, I put some of the clips and some of the drill work that I did with our guys in Hapoel Jerusalem and what their rebounded numbers were per minute and how they improved. But then I also went through, just to keep it towards this year, and looking at the top rebounders in the EuroLeague, and just chose Jack Sikma. You know, Luke Sikma. He's not the tallest, not the most athletic, obviously a high energy, high effort guy, but there's skill to what he's doing. And there is skill that you can do with your players' skill development to improve their rebound. And obviously a big portion of it is a mindset. If at the end of the day, if you just don't go fucking after it, you're not going to get rebounds. But, you know, once you get high energy guys and athletic guys, like we had Josh Owens in Hapoel Jerusalem, he doubled his rebounds per minute. And, you know, there was a skill factor we added to it.
No, great answer. Coach Jimmie, what do you think about rebounding as compared to a skill, and how did you see it develop over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think Ryan hit it right on the head, right? Like, some guys have the wingspan, the length, athleticism, but there's a major skill component of want and desire to go get the ball. We had one CJ Massenberg who's in guard. He's like 6'2", 6'3". He averaged 9 rebounds a game in college, and it translated to our level too. Like, he just has a nose for the ball, but how he reads it off the rim and stuff like that, and how he goes after with 2 hands, and all those things play into it. But it's definitely a skill that can be taught and developed.
So, and as you said, read it off the rim. How do you see it? Because you got some coaches that saying, okay, if you take a shot from the right wing, it's that percentage will drop on the left side. Would you train it that way? Would you mention it that way to people, or?
We didn't really talk about that too much. I think some guys kind of understood that. I think for us, it was more about as a scheme defensively, and you'll kind of see that in some of the stuff that I show. There's definitely, obviously, balls go longer, like from the right side, you shoot from the right, more often go off to the left, and so on and so forth. But we didn't get into that too much.
Okay. Now, without further ado, I would like you to start your presentation. If I'm correct, you have the ability to share screen it. So.
Yep. Cool. Let's see. Everybody see this?
Yes.
Cool. All right. All right. So just to give you guys a little background kind of on me and us with the Long Island Nets. Been here for 2 years. Both years we led the league in defensive rebounding rate. And that had very little to do with our personnel, in my opinion. We had no returning players from last year's team to this year's team. So how do you kind of do that, right? And I think that boils down to our scheme. You'll kind of see it here and touch on it a little bit as we go. So what impact does defensive rebounding have on your team? I think that's the biggest thing you got to kind of figure out. And here, like you'll see, if I told you this, right, if you increase your defensive rebounding percentage from 69% to 73%, you decrease your defensive points per possession from 1.1 to 1.06. And that's pretty linear going across the board. So you get, give up 10 offensive rebounds one game, 13 the next, you're probably going to give up 3 more points, roughly 1 point per offensive rebound. So just to give you guys a little pro game, roughly 4 points a game for 100 possessions. College game, maybe it's 3. So you'll see the chart right here that I put together. This linear line going across, this was the G League numbers this past year. And the numbers, the correlation right here, which is about 20%, is standard throughout the G League across what I ran and the NBA. So you see the numbers here at the bottom. This is defensive rebounding percentage going from the highest, roughly 74%, which was us over here, all the way to roughly 67 or so. And this is a defensive efficiency per 100 possessions. So as I talked about, if you go from 69%, which is 1.1 points per possession defensively, all the way over to 73, it's just a hair above 106. And so you kind of see this common flow, right? There's some outliers, obviously. This was the Grand Rapids team, great rebounding team, the best defensive team in the league. And they did some different things compared to the rest of the league, and maybe that's what you kind of need to do. They jumped it up a little bit, had a matchup zone, pressed a little bit, did some things differently that were non-traditional in the G League. And obviously the outliers up here as well. But this line and this trend curve is pretty uniform going across. Anybody have questions on that part of it before we move on? Just want to kind of set a little framework of going forward.
Yeah, just to be embarrassed, where are the Erie BayHawks on that?
Yeah. I didn't. I can go back and check for you, but I didn't want to name any teams up here.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, all right, going forward, this is to give you a little bit of framework here on the left side. This is the NBA, and I stole this from one of the sites. Didn't credit them. Sorry, but you'll see it right here. There's a pretty linear trend here too. This is just team rebounds per 100 possessions, and that's again, it's a metric that you can use. It's not just, hey, they got 50 rebounds this game. This is per 100 possessions, so it's a way to measure it. And if you see here, right, where it says 0.71 points on average, each rebound you get, that's pretty significant. So if you can improve your defensive rebounding, offensive rebounding, whatever it is, you're helping your team win. Rebounds really translate to winning. And for the G League, I kind of looked at the study, right, and I think we're always trying to improve. And for myself, I was like, well, how can you what correlates to getting more defensive rebounds? Teams have schematics that are like, let's force more mid-range, let's protect the paint, let's give up more threes, or vice versa. Let's let them shoot threes and protect the paint, and however you want to do it. There was less than 5% correlation between forcing more mid-range or giving up less mid-range, more rim shots, less rim shots, more threes, less threes. So very, very little correlation between the shots you give up and the rebounding that you have. And then teams that want to play hard, play physical, they foul more, they think it translates to rebounding because you build this mentality. There was absolutely zero correlation between rebounding and fouling. So what does impact rebounding, right? Like there's got to be something. So what I found was teams that cause more turnovers rebound at a lesser level. And that's going to make sense for a lot of people, right? Like teams that are smaller try to pressure more, cause more chaos. So let's take a look at that. Here's a chart, shows roughly 11% correlation between turnovers and defensive rebounding numbers. And this was, again, the same thing with the G League, and you'll see an outlier right here up top. But it's pretty standard. Teams that cause more turnovers, which is this chart, the axis here over on the right, going vertical, this is more turnovers going up. And then as you see the numbers go up, the defensive rebounding goes down. Right? Negative correlation between those exist. And why, right? So I ask myself these questions, right? It's pretty not rocket science. Players are more further away from the basket, pressuring the ball generally that cause more turnovers. Teams that switch more, if you switch and you try to post a big against a smaller guy, it could be a turnover. If they shoot it, better chance for the offensive rebound. Defensive rebounding takes a hit. Teams that are heavy rotation teams built in, balls coming over, harder to box out that way, find your guy, free runners to the rim. But what I really wanted to focus on was pick and roll coverage, because I think this is where we've kind of set ourselves apart from other teams and able to keep offensive rebounding away from us and really focus on all 5 guys going to the glass, yet still having a high tempo offensive team. Pull up these clips, see if can get this going. The show up video?
We don't see it yet, but in the meanwhile, Jimmie,
Yep.
about turnovers and rebounding. If your
Yes.
team, if your team is forcing turnovers, they might not be in a good position to rebound. But that's not really what you showed in the diagram. But what are your thoughts on that?
So there was a few outliers, and just the standard, like, it's not that you can't do both. It's generally you're better at one than the other, right? You can't be great at everything unless your talent is superior to the others, in my opinion. Like I said, the Grand Rapids team, they caused a lot of turnovers and they rebounded really well. I think they did kind of went against the grain. Most teams, are kind of man-to-man, playing the half court defensively. He jumped it up a little bit. A lot of presses. They had a matchup zone that he implemented as well. So I think that confused a lot of people, and teams settled for bad shots, but yet they were able to turn people over. So while you can do it, the general trend shows that you can't be great at both.
Perfect.
So this is kind of our fundamental defense, right? Like, keep your 5 guys inside of their 5 guys. And you'll see it right here. This is kind of where we want to operate from, right? All of our defensive guys are kind of in good position right here. And on the shot goes up, you'll kind of see, like, this is very, very basic. But we want to keep their big away from the rim. Anyone that's crashing, they don't really crash here. But just to give you an idea of what you'll see going forward. Again, off pick and rolls. So our thing is this. We're going to play this 2-on-2, and these 3 guys stay between them, and they go crash at the very basic level of things. Again, right here, this pick and roll, you'll see it. Shots going up. These 3 guys are all still going to be involved. The big now, he's not contesting the shot. He knows his guy's probably going to the glass, rolling to the rim to rebound. He's got to make sure he's responsible for him. These 2 guys are going to the glass. You'll see their 2 guys take care of them, and the other 2 get involved. Our pick and roll coverage kind of dictates our rebounding. All the guys are going to be involved. We never overextend defensively, and we're always in position to rebound. Again, guards will have the same responsibility here. We're playing 5 guards defensively. Every single one's a guard. So you see this kind of double drag situation. He's going to roll. He's going to pop. We play the same pick and roll coverage. These 2 guys involved. Gets back to the zone. Nothing changes. We don't let the roll get behind us here. First guy goes. He's walling up already. He knows the size advantage that he has. Nothing changes. Everyone's in the paint. Again, now you're going against an elite offensive rebounder with maybe some guys not crashing, right? So how do you kind of handle that? And you'll see it here. So they come off, rescreen, nothing changes. Guard is working hard to get back to his man to contest. The big notices he's not contesting. He got to change his focus from the guard to the big. Here, this guard knows, scouting report-wise, that he is an elite crasher. So while this isn't textbook as far as him hammering him on the roll and going to the glass, all it takes is the intent to get in there, and it slows him up a little bit. There's no space for him to kind of barrel through us. It's going to be a foul, and everybody kind of else is in between their man and the basket. Right here. So what happens? Another situation comes up. You get cracked in the ball screen. You can't get back in front of your guy. The big needs to cover the ball. The guard needs to take the roll. Again, this situation right here. Guard's behind the play. He's not getting back in front. This big's rolling. This big now needs to take the ball. And as the big rolls, we need help. because you see right here, he starts moving him from the top of the key all the way down to the dotted. And while it's not much right here from this player, he just has to be involved. He's watching him the whole time. And he knows that shot goes up, he gets involved. And if he's not there, that's an offensive rebound. That for us is the basics of what we do. And very, very simple. The less aggressive I think teams are in pick and roll coverage, the better you are at defensive rebounding. And it doesn't work for everybody. Like, you're going to give something up. For us, it was we didn't force as many turnovers, but we felt that better defensive rebounding led to better defensive efficiency for us.
I think a great explanation. Do you mind going back to the second clip?
Yeah.
And you were talking about the guy on the right corner for us, left, yes, bottom left.
This one.
Yeah, bottom left. Yeah. What do you think about the guy on the who's going to box out? Would you say I do it with my back, or I meet him, or how would you mention it to him? Because now he's waiting for him on his back.
Yep. So I don't think it takes too much. Like, I'm not going to go out there with, we never really focused on technique, to be honest. It was more about if they came running in there, you're getting a forearm up and jamming him and keeping him out. You're not going to let him get a free run. So whether it's taking another step this way or kind of reading the move he makes, but we don't want to lunge at him to give him a chance to get around us either.
No. And actually, like you already said, most of the clips you played a drop coverage on the pick and roll.
Correct.
And just to make it more like what you said, a higher percentage. But what would you think happens if you played like a hedge or something like that?
Played a what? Sorry, cut out.
More like a hedge.
Yeah. So for example, like in this clip right here, if he came off and where this guy is up, and traditionally, like if he came over, this guy becomes a high and he comes over to the rim, I think this guy's going to have a better run to get to the rim. Same thing, like he might notice his man stunting over, taking away the tag, depending on if you have both guys sink in or not. But if he's over further, like midline, I think that gives him a chance to kind of get a free run at the rim. And I think that's just too hard at this level with elite athletes on the perimeter.
So we got a question for you as well. Do you play the same drop coverage for side and middle pick and rolls, or? And I don't want to give away too much, as Coach Ryan is also in the chat, of course.
No, there's no secret. So on the side, we were a little different, and it was scouting report to scouting report. We could ice, push, down, blue, whatever you want to call it, on the sides, especially where pretty much every team in the league is no middle. So the position kind of dictated it. But whatever the big called, whatever direction he was kind of the way we wanted to send it. So we did have freedom to ice it and keep it there, and nothing would change. I think what we didn't do was we didn't ice anything with a good shooter setting the screen. So if a good shooter was setting the screen, we're always going to force it to the screen.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question, Coach Kevin. And what are your thoughts about sending guys through the middle and playing like we mentioned last time, kind of a next defense with a guy stunting or maybe switching onto him?
Yeah, so I think that opened my eyes up to a lot of different things. I think that's an awesome change up with the way that we play defense, because it's a little bit more aggressive. And I think that holds true. I think I think there's a trade-off. I think you'll cause more turnovers by doing that, but it might reduce your rebounding chance. And personnel dependent, right? I think with anything, the more you practice, the better you'll get with it. But I like it personally as a change up to what we do.
Yeah. So we got a next question from Coach Corey. He's asking, did you drop against a swing and a follow back screen as well? Ball screen, I'm sorry.
Against the swing? What do you mean?
Would you mind elaborating a little bit, Corey? I think what he means if we swing it to another guy followed by another ball screen. Yes.
So everything was the same coverage. We didn't vary with what we did unless two shooters were involved. We might switch it. If two guards were involved and we kind of forced the ball into the rim, we could late switch that and veer off, as teams call it. But we didn't really change what we did. It's hard to go from, you can't ice one side to ice the other side. I think that's just really hard to do. So we would play drop coverage no matter pretty much.
Yeah. So I think that's great, great insight in how you defend the pick and roll according to also the defensive rebound. Um, I would like to move on to Coach Ryan. I already saw he put out a little clip on Twitter about some presentation he was going to do. So I'm happy and I'm excited to watch it. Coach Ryan, it's all yours. I think you're still muted, Coach.
I'll speak a little bit more on the player development side of it, on building individual players, but something I think that is worth looking for in terms of offensive rebounding that we did in Jerusalem, which was send a little bit more 5 to the glass. There's an Australian coach named Aaron Fern. Some of you may know him, some of you may not know him. Basically created the mentality of tagging up as the head coach of Cairns Taipans, and so he would more or less send 5 to the glass with rules and philosophy of attacking the high side, pushing them down to the baseline, and more or less any rebound inside 15 feet, you were going to get any rebound outside of 15 feet. They had a chance to get an offensive rebound, and then they were in position. In terms of between their man and the basket in transition defense. And in Jerusalem, we sent 5 to the glass. I kind of had a combination of go get it guys and tag up guys. So we had our 4s and 5s is basically just go freaking get it. And then we had the other guys a little bit more tag up, which is one of the reasons why we led Champions League and rebounding and offensive rebounding. And I'll go over what we did in skill work and taking that was going to be one of our biggest concerns in Jerusalem. Not obviously this year in the 18-19 season was rebounding. And what we did with a lot of our player development with our bigs, and I'll show the numbers the way that they improved. But I think for teams in Europe, and I did it at the beginning of the G League season with success. To start the G League season, we were number 1 in offensive rebounding and number 1 in transition defense. And then due to personnel changes and shitty coaching, we got away from tagging up. But it is something that I would do again and would do over again and do better with our personnel and do better coaching it. But if you take a look at the NBA a season ago, right, everyone thinks in the NBA and the mentality in North America is get back, transition defense, and not offensive rebound. And in the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks led the NBA in transition defense at 11 points per game, and they scored 11 points a game, 11.3, whatever it was, off offensive rebounds, so they were even, right? And the Denver Nuggets gave up 12 points per game in transition and scored 15 points a game off offensive rebounds. They tried to send guys to the glass that were below the break, so they had some offensive rebounding philosophy, so they were sending more guys to the glass than every other NBA team. What you find analytically is they were +3. So who is better? Milwaukee had the best transition defense, but in terms of fast break points to offensive rebounds, the Nuggets were +3. And if you take that over an 82-game season, you're expected to win 9 additional games. And I think anytime that you're looking to generate extra offensive possessions, I think sending 5 to the glass, whether if you want to be conservative and have the tag it up philosophy, I think can be really productive. And Aaron Fern is someone every coach should look up. I think he's one of the best coaches I've ever come across. You know, and he took the lowest budget team in Australia, the Cairns Taipans, never finished last, went to 3 Final Fours and 2 Grand Finals. And so what I will present on is more of the player development side and what we did and what we focused on and what I've done with NBA players and training guys for the draft, working with guys individually full-time. But I think that concept is really important, especially in Europe where they don't push the ball the way that they do in the NBA. And I think it's a concept that can really gain teams extra possessions and extra opportunities, especially at the college level, the European level. And I'm a firm believer of it will work in the G League because it worked through the first 10 games that we did it. And then, as I said, we had personnel changes and injuries and terrible coaching that eventually we got away from it. And, you know, in the G League, you have to continue to create buy-in with it. But now moving on to the individual development. And so I think in terms of, as we're talking about player development, in player development, you have to figure out how to motivate players. And so we signed Josh Owens. For those of you that know him, he's an athletic roller, was a terrible rebounder. And so in the domestic league in 17-18, he averaged 3.7 rebounds in 20 minutes. And in Israel and Jerusalem, he basically doubled that to 7 and, in a little bit more minutes. And if you look at his rebounds at the Euro Cup level compared to Champions League. And so when we signed Josh, if you look at our team, originally we signed Josh Owens and Tayshaun Thomas as our bigs. Amar'e came later. One of our biggest concerns was rebounding offensively and defensively. And I think in terms of player development, you have to figure out what motivates players, right? Are they motivated by playing at the highest level? Are they motivated by more playing time? Or are they motivated by more money? And rebounding is something that translates to all three, right? At the end of the day, if you rebound the ball, you're going to play at a higher level, you're going to make more money, you're going to get more playing time. And I think figuring out what motivates players is really important behind your player development. And so what I did with Josh is I took, at the time, who was a leading rebounder in the Euro League, and I broke down clips of him. And Josh was more mobile, more athletic, and as tall, right? But that player had some skill to what he was doing. And so I broke down his rebounding into different skilled categories that we'll go over. And what I did is I presented this to our big guys, the skills behind it. And so number one, right, if you want to improve as a rebounder at the end of the day, it helps if you're tall, helps if you're long, helps if you're super quick and athletic. But really the biggest thing you have to have about you is a fuck you and a want to. You have to have a fuck you and a want to about you in terms of rebounding offensively and defensively. And then two, once you have that, now you can begin to develop the skill. And so these are just the numbers behind our big guys. This is Josh Owens for the year. Okay, Tayshaun Thomas. If you look at him in 17-18, 4.8 rebounds per game in 21 minutes, 7.8 and 25.4. And so what we tried to tell our guys in the NBA and G League, because of the rate of possessions, the numbers are a little bit different, but you're an elite rebounder if you have one rebound every 3 minutes. And so as you could tell for the most part of this is elite rebounding. So now you could take Amar'e, in which Amar'e in the domestic league improved a little bit, right? And then obviously in the Champions League, Euro Cup, he improved a lot in terms of rebounds per minute and as he got older. And obviously there's a different level of competition between Euro Cup, especially the group that we had in the Champions League. So that plays a part of it, but Amar'e is also 2 years older. So these are just some of the skills that I broke down for our guys that we went over on film and that we coached and that we did in player development. And so in this, number one, I think in terms of getting your guys better rebounders, you got to coach it every day. We led the Champions League in rebounding and offensive rebounding, and we never did team rebounding drills. And so for the coaches out there that are like, I don't want to work on boxing out and offensive rebounding, crashing, because I'm worried about players getting injured and we need them for the games. I totally understand that concept. In Jerusalem, Oded wanted to send 5 players to the glass but never work on it. And so how do you do that? And number one, you got to coach the effort every day, every possession, all practice long. And I coached our entire team on offensive rebounding, but I coached our bigs and I called it out to them. And so number one, as we said, you have to have a fuck you and a want to about it, right? And so these are just clips of Sigma, just quick in transition, right? Offensive rebound. At the end of the day, you have to go after everything. And, we have a say in America, right, to a hammer, everything is a nail. And as I try to teach to the big guys, right, everything is a rebound. Make or miss, it doesn't matter. You're going after everything. It just doesn't matter. You got to go after every possible rebound that you can. And there's got to be a will and a want to about it. And once you get effort down, then you can coach the skill. So the next skill, and a lot of this will be more particular to offensive rebounding, but these skills translate to offense and defensive rebounding. And what we did is we gave terminology to our skills. So throughout practice, I could coach up the guys when they missed it. So offensive rebound, early effort, right? At the end of the day, and you'll see here, these are some clips of Sigma. There'll be some clips of our team in Jerusalem. If you watch here, on the raise of the shot, right? Most rebounders, what they do is they wait for the ball to be at the rim or hit the rim before they make to go get it. And as we all know, players forget to box out, right? Whether it's a switch situation, like size, they forget to box out. So what you want to coach your guys on is early effort. On the raise of the shot, you go and you go like hell. And every now and then what's going to happen is guys are just going to get pegged in the back of the head because the guard will see that they're open and they'll hit them. But 99% of the time, the guard isn't going to make that pass. They're going to shoot it. And so what you want is to create that advantage. You don't want to give, like Coach Jimmie said, you don't want to give them the chance to stay on the inside of you. You got to have that early effort. And so we really coach and we drill this bang on the raise of the shot and also anticipating shots, which sometimes may jam your space and you may be out of position, but you want to anticipate shots going up to get that early inside rebounding position. So same thing you'll see here. Sigma, he's already anticipating. If you look at him on the perimeter, I don't have the fancy graphics on this like Jimmie did. Elite level video work, Jimmie. So you see him here. He's anticipating the shot is going to happen. All right, he's already going. So now same thing. You see Sigma on the perimeter right there. Bang, taking off. Before anyone even has a chance to box him out, his early effort is gone. And so I think that's one of the biggest ways to improve your rebound. Now, this is some of our players. You see the light on Chris Johnson here, right? He's anticipating, he's gone. He's just running around him. And this is what you do before you even have a chance to get boxed out. You're just gone. Anticipation. Same thing. You can watch Tayshaun Butler here. Early effort. Or sorry, Tayshaun. Josh Owens, shot up, gone. Okay, and so one of the ways we work on early effort, and and you'll see in these clips, this is after practice, right? This is this is filming for the Champions League website, so the guys aren't going too hard. Ideally, this is a coach that's really going to make this guy work, but getting them working on the raise. So once he's there, bang, he's already gone. He's anticipating that shot. Then ideally you give him more resistance, obviously, in terms of the player development. Tayshaun's just being lazy and how much resistance he's making him have. But building that early effort and mindset to go, bang, get around him. So this is one of the very first drills that we do in terms of trying to build the habit. It's just getting that early effort. And what you end up seeing a lot out of your guys is they draw a lot of fouls, right? They're improving rebounds. They draw a lot of fouls. And then they're also drawing secondary defenders to them. We would say Hulk, it's a little bit what Jimmie talked about when you've got really good offensive rebounders. You're attracting that, right? So the next skill we work on is most rebounders are only good in-area rebounders. So we really try to drill and train out of area rebounding and extension catches. So here you'll see Sigma, right? He's going out of his area to get that rebound. And so we really try to work on different drills that work on that, right? Not standing in your area, go get it. Get out of your area, go get the ball. The first one to the ball is the greatest chance to get it. So there you can see Chris Johnson, right? If we rewind it, bang, anticipating, going and getting it out of your area. Okay, and so this is just some of the drills that we try to do. And during these drills, what we're trying to do is when the player reaches one side of the floor, throw it off on the other. So he's got to go out of his area and trying to force one hand catches like that. If you think about it like this, and I'll get through more of the basic drills, right? Elite rebounders are extension catching rebounders. And I think a lot of times at the youth level and college level, we teach to go rebound with two hands. And if you're rebounding with two hands and another guy's rebounding with one hand, he has a greater chance of getting the ball. And the biggest concern at the youth level, college level, is the turnover, guys being able to snatch it and catch it with one hand. Well, you got to drill it. If you drill extension one-hand catches, your guys can do it. And that's the big thing that Josh talked to me about. He's like, I was always taught to rebound with two hands. And I told him, I was like, well, for your whole career, you've been a terrible rebounder. So what is that doing for you? You know, let's drill extension catches. And this is one of the drills, and I'll get into some of the warm-up drills that we did, just things that we did every day to build these skills. But at the end of the day, elite rebounders are extension catching rebounders. They have to be able to extend their hands, right, as high as they can, as wide as they can, and catch it and bring it in with one hand. And so this is one of the drills that we'll do, okay, to work on the player development portion of it, right? And ideally what you're trying to do is, as I said, when they're on one side of the floor, getting them to the other side of the floor, or making it pop up high to where every catch has got to be extension and out of area. Sometimes I'm trying to throw it quick to where it bounces off quick, sometimes high, sometimes wide.
So, Coach, I got two questions for you about that and about the previous one. What would you think about going to the O boards like in the previous clip where there was a guy who was like standing there with a bag in front of him? Would you say always go to the middle or always go to the via the baseline side of him if you go for the O board?
Which clip is it?
A little bit further back, I believe the previous skill you were talking about, if I can call it a skill.
You can't call it a skill.
Yeah, this one exactly. So now, would you say you always go for, like middle?
No. We work on both. It was just to get the point across. So we'll work on going both ways, right? And so obviously there is a mentality behind it on shot location. You know, we will talk about, okay, if a shot is taken below the left side of the break, ideally where you want to get, and there's some drills for that. But we work on going both ways. And sometimes you just want to go after it hard as hell for two reasons. One, to draw the foul, but you can get little cheap fouls. Two, you might not get it, but because you're taking two box out guys with you, you're opening up a lane for your other guy that's crashing, right? Because you're attracting so many defenders to try to box you out.
Yeah. And we got another question in the chat talking about, I also think tipping the ball is essential. Would you also consider that? Because now you're really snatching it.
Yeah. In terms of tip-ins or tip-outs, because we practice both.
Okay.
Which one?
Let me check. Coach hasn't responded to that question yet. We got another question. Do you teach like a swimming technique to get around the defense, or is it just go get it mentality?
Number one, it starts with the mentality. Then two, there is some skill to that, the way you want to set up and right. How you want to attack, if they're face boxing you, if they're, if you're trying to just box out with your back, or if you're face boxing, and if there's face boxing, there's a little bit more juke to it, right? Setting them up and then swimming around. And then if they're just trying to box you out, right? Now you have the mentality, are they connected? Is it contact? Then we try to wedge them in depending on where they are, which I'll go over later, right? Or if they're around, then it's just go get it. Just go get it. Get around, go get.
So he was talking about tipping it out.
Yeah, we'll go over that. I got that in here as well.
Perfect.
Okay, so now this is a drill, right? I think to build elite rebounders, especially with your big guys and big guys in general, you have to build their hands and their catching. And so these are some drills that I did with the big guys. We also had a player named Cavell Big B Williams this year who couldn't catch anything at all ever at the beginning of the year. And if you watch towards the end of his time with us, he was catching pretty much everything. And so this is a way to where you can build rebounding skills without wearing them down, right? And so this was I'll show you the skill and then the drill behind it. And so extension catches, right, are there to the side. And if you watch, you see how his arm is extended out perfect, and then he's got to catch it with one hand and bring it in. And that's something most rebounders cannot do. Most rebounders have got to rebound with their arms bent because that's where their core strength is. And so there's a hand component, catching component, right? You see a lot of these clips, these extension catch finishes. catch rebounds, boom, extension, right? There's a lot of skill to what Sigma's doing rebounding-wise. And then here's some clips of our guys, right? Josh Owens, bang, extension. Look at the way he's extended arm back. Most guys, right, they can't get their fingers on it. What we try to tell our big guys is get your fingers on it and then go get it, right? The first one to the ball gets it. But if you don't even get a finger on it, you have zero chance. And so we work on these type catches, and these are things early in the season he could not do. He had zero chance of getting this rebound. It just wasn't in his skill set. It wasn't something he thought about. It wasn't something he worked on. Right? And then that extension catch there with Chris Johnson. Okay, same thing. You look at our guard, James Feldine, extension catches, snatches. Same thing. Watch Josh here. The way he's able to bring it, catch it with one, fully extended, bring it in. Okay, Amar'e always had great hands. We did very little to develop that. He was always awesome. Okay, but you can watch here. This is just a warm-up drill that we would do. And so the goal on this, right, and this isn't even a good one, but is to force it to where it's got to be really extended with both hands. And so we'll do this as a warm-up like that, try to extend and catch. And then if you want to build on it and add finishing to wear them out, you just have another coach there with the pad, and then on the catch, right, that's where you build your finishes, whether it be a power dribble finish, shot fake finish, step through finish, shot fake step across, whatever the skill work is, right into your left-hand hook. You know, this is where you can mix catching, rebounding, and finishing in the same component. You know, but for the purpose of this drill, we just talk through, right? And so really your goal is to get that. That's where you want it when you're throwing it off the backboard. But you want to train that catch, and it's something that can be taught and drilled to your players. And ideally what you want is to miss it like Tayshaun did the previous one. And so we try to drill, same thing, both hands. And this was just almost a daily progression warm-up. That's a good one, right? So ideally, you want to try to get everyone like that to really train them. Same thing, that's a good one. Okay, then tap outs. You know, so what do you do when you can't get it, right? You don't have the rebounding position. You're not there. Okay, you can't get it. We work on tapping it up and then going to get it, that quick second jump, right? And so trying to find an area to hit it to yourself on the floor. And so this is something, you know, obviously Dennis Rodman is iconic for doing it, but it's something really high-level rebounders. That's the wrong rebounding clip. I apologize. But it's something high-level rebounders do a really good job of, right? Tapping it out to themselves. If they can't get it, hitting it up, going and getting it. Right there, excellent clip of Sigma, right? He doesn't have the inside position. He can't get it. Taps it up to himself. Quick second jump, goes and gets it. And so that's a way to generate extra rebounds. Okay, here's some clips of our guys doing it. And this applies to offense and defensive rebounding. All right, and so it's just very simple, just a warm-up drill, tap it up, go get it. And we try to give them the ideal goal to tap it to where the defense more than likely won't be. And it's a skill that you really have to work on, the skill portion of one, trying to get to it at its peak, tapping it up high, and then having a quick second jump. And so what we really focus on here is this, right? Catching it at its peak here. Quick second jump, arms extended. We want every rebound to be arms extended. We don't want to catch it with our arms bent because then that allows another player to come in with extension catches and beat you to the ball. So that's just a quick drill that we do for it. Another warm-up drill and skill is to have quick hands. What I mean is when the ball comes off that rim fast or you're out of position, it just comes off super quick. Having that reaction time to be able to catch it when it comes off that rim hard and fast. Comes out there quick, right? It's a little bit behind him. And so a lot of these skills, build onto each other. And so you'll see here, same thing. Ball comes off the rim fast, right, to where it just kind of hits the bottom of the rim, right, and it hits guys in the hands. And how many times do big guys miss that, right? And so really working on snatching that. Call them quick hand catches. And you'll see the drills behind it, came off the rim quick. So here's one example to where Deshaun, it hits his hands and he bobbles it. And so we drill it here, right? We start with two hands. And this is just a warm-up drill, right? And trying to make it come off that backboard as quick as you can. And then once they get good at it, you'll see his toes are a little bit outside of the three-point line. And so this is building the skill, out of the circle. Now if you look at Tayshaun's, his heel is on the circle. So once they begin catching it every time, you move them in closer, right, to make it harder. And so now what you see is on this catch, look where he's catching that ball. It's behind his head. And so most players, right, when it hits them in the hands like that, what do? They fumble and they miss it. And so that's the goal of this drill, is to force that quick hands catch. So you're improving the catching of the player, you're improving the hand speed of the player. And then once again, if you want to mix finishing in, which we did with our big guys a lot, we would just catch this, have a coach there with a pad, and then they have to pad it up and finish. But your goal is to get it to come off that backboard as quick as you can. Now getting into one-hand quick finishes. So there, same thing. Comes off that rim a little bit quick, and it goes with extension catches as well. But building the hand speed of when it comes off quick and it's behind you to be able to catch and bring it in or try to get a shot attempt off. Right there, slapped it off the backboard. And so this is something that early on Josh had, he just couldn't catch that. And it's something we really train. So now you'll see we do left hand and right hand, right? You can see he's catching it high, trying to catch it arm extended, coming off quick. And your goal is to make him miss these. But you want every time to just be that one hand bringing it in. So you want it to be like that. Hit him on the tip, make it come off. That's a good one. Anytime you can make it hit the bottom of the backboard, and he's got to catch it there, just like that. Snatch it, bring it in. So same thing. We mix in a lot of finishing with these as well. Okay, get arounds. And we would talk through in practice and in games, especially in practice, when guys had an early effort opportunity. That's exactly our terminology. I'd tell and say, Josh, you missed early effort. Josh, you missed extension catch. Josh, you missed quick hands catch. Josh, you missed a get around. And if I could anticipate it happening, I would call it out for them at the beginning of the season. So when a shot would go up and Josh was in position, I would yell, get around, get around, get around, as loud as I could, anticipating it. And so here's just kind of a, when they try to slow roll you, as Coach talked about on the pick and roll, especially off a veer switch, right? Just driving them under, getting around them, and going and getting it. So there he's trying to box around, and you'll see this is a little bit what we talked about. Watch his setup. Watch his left foot, where he just fakes, plants, bang, goes and gets around him. Same thing. You see him, he's trying to box around, creates a contact, forcing him into box out, and then slides off and gets around him. So it seems simple and basic, right? But same thing. Guy's boxing you out, bang, go get around him. Get to the front of the rim. Same thing. Watch Lior, high side, drive him under, get around him. Boxing Josh out, get around, go get it, and a tap out to himself. Same thing. Really effective on offensive rebounding. Okay, so this is one of the ways that we drilled it, right? So let's just say a shot was taken from here and you're on the baseline. Chances are that ball's coming back to the middle. So trying to get around him, get high side, get to the middle of the floor. So obviously, ideally, your coach is providing more resistance than what Josh is giving Tayshaun here. Ideally, you're making it hit off the backboard, pop off that front of the rim like that. Okay, and then we would drill. This could be a free throw rebounding situation or just in a situation where a shot is taken same side, statistically speaking, right? It's going to go this side. So how do you get there, right? And working on that baseline coverage. A little bit questionable shooting by the coach. But everyone here can see the point, right, of what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish in the skill work. Okay, then some other skill works I actually filmed for this, but Champions League didn't use it, and I don't have the video, but Champions League filmed all these drills to put on their website when we were leading the league in rebounding. But wedging is another big one, right? So you'll see here, if you watch Sigma, right, so he does a good job of wedging them under the backboard. And so when guys, whether it's against a switch or a guy's got box out position, you could watch him here, right? Sigma just wedges him underneath the rim to give him a little bit more room to get anything that goes over his head, or obviously try to get around and get him. And wedging is a big skill, and this is the same thing. I would yell out, like if Josh Owens was there, you can watch him. The way that Sigma is, I would just start yelling, wedge, 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 and try to drive that player underneath the rim. Put your forearm in his back. And sometimes you will get an offensive foul, right, in those situations. But here, just trying to pin him under. Right, and here you can see Sigma. You know, he goes to get around, does a good job boxing him out, and then now just driving him more to the midline. Shot goes up, wedging him in, trying to get those 50-50 balls. And then something that we always talked about, right, if you can't get it, and in the NBA, they do a good job crediting offensive rebounds to your players to this. In Europe, they don't do as good of a job. But if you can't get it, don't let them get it. Slap it out. So here, he might not be able to get it. Sigma can't get it. Bang, just slap it out and let your guards go get it. So that's the end of the skill work presentation. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I saw some questions popping up in the chat.
Sure.
I think this one more like correlates with the one of tapping out. Have you ever had a position on the court that you try to tap the ball out to if you can get it, and have another player occupying that spot, so they are getting to that area?
So we had Jacoben Brown and Tamir Blatt, who didn't really do a good job offensive rebounding. And so what we tried to tell them is to be scavengers. And so basically, they were just going to sit at the three-point line anyways. It's what I tried to get them to crash more. We didn't do a good enough job getting them to tag up, but we wanted them on slap outs. We would tell guys like, we were playing let's say we're playing an elite big guy that's a rebounder and Josh just couldn't get it. We'd tell Josh to slap it out, and we'd tell those guards to be scavengers and run across the nail. Right? And they try to slap it out to that area towards the three-point line, try to give our guards the best chance to just scoop it up. And Tamir was pretty good at that. He got a lot of scavenger rebounds.
Perfect. We got another question from a youth player, actually, and he's asking, would you consider doing this rebounding drill to guards as well?
Absolutely. We did it with our guards and wings.
Yeah, so that goes to the tagging up principle in which you want to have 5 guys in, right?
And we tried to sell them, right? Like, at the end of the day, how do you motivate them? I mean, the more rebounds you average, the more money you're going to make, the more minutes you're going to play, the more shot attempts you potentially get if they're offensive rebounds. And so if you take a look at it, right, the highest percentage plays in the game analytically are transition, cuts, and offensive rebounds. And so I think that's something that the NBA – I think a team, if you could get NBA players to buy into sending 5 to the glass and being dedicated about it, I think it would be super productive. And because you're going to generate fouls, free throws, layups, threes. the three highest percentage shots in the game come off the three highest percentage plays in the game. And so it's something I would definitely do with guards, because I think rebounding guards are super valuable, especially on the defensive end, right? And we've seen guys like that, whether it's Rondo or Kidd, or as Coach talked about, they had a really good guard, and there was an undersized player, it was really a four, but Jimmiee Jones from Wisconsin, he was averaging like 12 rebounds a game. He's kind of more four than guard, but he's 6'5". He's just small, but he's just a mother effer. And kids are up, can't cuss anymore. And I think that's got to be your mentality, because as a guard, if you can defensive rebound it, your transition offense is going to be at a high level. And I think it's super valuable for guards and wings to really improve those skills, to worst case improve their defensive rebounding.
Yeah. So, and another question that pops into my mind is like the court size differences. Do you think that has anything to do with rebounding? Maybe you coached in Europe as well.
No.
NBA size, bigger field, or?
No, not at all. I mean, the NBA is just more threes. That's why I think tagging up is actually to an advantage to the NBA, right? So, I mean, statistically speaking, off threes, your rebounds are going to go 4.5 meters out, right? And so in theory, if you're tagging up, if five guys are driving all of their players inside 15 feet, they're scrumming them in, I think you can generate a lot of extra possessions and high offensive percentage possessions. And so I even think more to the NBA and Europe why you should send five to the glass,
And so another question we got was, these skills are both for offense and defensive rebounding, right? With rebounding, there is this whole debate about boxing out. What do you guys think about boxing out? And want to bring Jimmie in this as well after you answered the question from Coach Ryan. What do you guys think about boxing out? Yeah.
I think boxing out comes to two things. Are you a go-get-it guy or not? Like if you have a talent to just go get the basketball, you don't ask Dennis Rodman to box out. It's just the reality of it. But maybe Ryan Anderson isn't a great rebounder, and you want him, okay, look, you might not get the rebound, but make sure your guy doesn't go get the rebound. Or my defensive rebounding philosophy was a little bit we had the mentality to, I would say, double down. One of our assistants, TJ Saint, would say Hulk. But basically, if you had a really good offensive rebounder, we would take one of our worst defensive rebounders and double down, just clamp down on that good guy and put two rebounders on him. So I think if you're not a go-get-it guy, right, you've got to be a box-out guy. And then obviously there's a time and possession of, we would tell Josh if he was guarding an elite-level rebounder, just face box him. Like, you don't have to get it. Just make sure he doesn't go get it. Amar'e was going to go after everything. He wasn't boxing anyone out.
No, and so before I'm going to Jimmie, I want to ask you a quick question. Like you mentioned, like Ryan Anderson, and also looking into the vertical and horizontal rebounding stuff with players that go up instead of like not high jumpers. For example, Kevin Love is not a guy that jumps up very high, but he's averaging well in his best seasons.
If you watch Kevin Love, so, I had Ed Davis. I worked with Ed Davis, Nick Colaitis, Gal Meckel, Omar'e Caspi, Kevin Martin, Corey Brewer full-time throughout the season. And Ed Davis was an elite-level defensive rebounder, not a very good offensive rebounder. What I did is I showed him a ton of clips of Kevin Love, elite early effort offensive rebound guy. And he just runs around you. Like, can't box around. He just goes right around you.
No, I think that's a great guy to like, if you're not have the athleticism to do it, that's the early effort guy to go get it. So Coach Jimmie, I want to have your thoughts on the boxing out question as well, if you would mind jumping in.
Yeah, it's pretty much just to echo what he just said, right? Just go get it guys and guys that need to box out. We had different 5 men for our team. 2 of them were go get it guys that can literally just out jump you and go grab the ball, and extension wise could go out there and just get it. And we had another guy that we would just make sure your guy doesn't get the rebound, right? So talking about front boxing, like he wasn't going to out vertical you. He didn't have like the best hands, but he was strong and physical. As long as his guy didn't get it, we knew with our scheme that the other 4 guys were going to be around the paint too, so they could clean it up. And like you said, our guards would get the rebound and they would be able to push the break, which I think helped our pace overall too offensively.
Yeah. So going back to the stuff Coach Ryan was talking about, taking up 5 guys to the offensive board. What are your thoughts on that?
I like it, just because I would hate it defensively. So I think that causes a lot of problems for us. The more guys that go, it reduces your chance to bust out and break, and it kind of gets you out of rhythm to what you want to do. Like, I don't think we had an elite offensive team in the half court, so we pride ourselves in transition. So I think, especially like no one in the NBA does it, as he said, but there's a time and a place to do it. Like, I know Pannone used to press back in the day in the NBA, and if you can get guys to buy into doing it, there's going to be a way to take an advantage. Same thing with Grand Rapids. They had a matchup zone, and it disrupted teams just because it's not the norm.
Yeah. So,
well, to speak on it, especially right in sending 5 to the glass, I think in Europe, where Europe is behind is playing with pace. Like, first off, I strongly prefer European basketball over the NBA. I think it's the best basketball in the world. But that being said, it's a far more tactical game than the American game. But where the NBA is far ahead is the pace that they play at and the way that they value analytics. Europe is very behind on that. And so, as I try to tell European coaches all the time, right, if we say the defense is at its weakest in transition, well, then why don't you want to play faster and attack in transition? And for defensive coaches, they talk all the time about how we have to box out, don't give up offensive rebounds kill us. Well, then why don't you send guys to the glass? I don't understand it. And it's, I see it all the time in the NBA. They talk, we have to box out. We can't give up offensive rebounds, but yet you also don't want to send anyone to the offensive glass. Like, to me, it's very counterproductive. And the mentality, and I get what the NBA's mentality is. Guys are elite. I mean, elite level quick. And you give them, as Coach Bizdelic would say, 1 second between separation is 6 to 7 feet. And that's why I think that the tagging up concept would really work, right? If you just send 5 guys to the glass, 5 guys that'll go get it, yeah, you'll get murdered in the NBA. But if you really tag up at a high level, like the way some of the Australian teams do, and you could get NBA players to buy into it, I think you could revolutionize the game in the NBA.
Yeah, so I think that answers pretty much another question that was asked. Like, what if your matchup runs the open court after a shot? You go to the offensive rebound, or you tag him by going back.
No, you're tagging up. So let's say, right, we're playing Long Island. They switch to pick and roll. So now they've got Nick Claxton on Jalen Anderson. Nick Claxton is their 7-footer. And let's say, Jalen Adams. Jalen Adams takes a 3, right? And Claxton contests and flies by. That's his matchup. He's tagged up to him. So in transition, that's his matchup, right? And obviously you get a little bit cross-match in transition, right? But that's where also it applies into trapping the post and a lot of other philosophies. But, the mentality is, let's say he flies by and Claxton goes. If he goes, I go. And because the other 4 players are on the high side, if you get the offensive rebound while I'm in position to pressure you full court, well, you just can't throw a full court pass if I'm in your way. And at the end of the day, still throwing that full court pass, even to a 7-footer, right? How many times do guys overthrow that, right? Unless it's LeBron throwing to Anthony Davis. And, still, if you've got a guy right there, these guards are elite level athletes. Throwing the ball over Jalen Adams is not easy. He's athletic enough at 6'2" to go dunk on you. I mean, you got to be an elite level passer under pressure to make that pass. And so that's why, obviously, it hasn't been done. But I think the theory behind tagging up, for sure I would do it in the EuroLeague in Europe, but the theory behind tagging up in the NBA, I stand behind. You just have to get NBA players and G League players to buy into it and to commit to it. Because if you don't do it perfect, if you don't execute it well, like Coach said, if you execute it well, it'll be effective. And if you don't, you'll get killed.
Perfect. I got a question for both of you, actually. Do you have any rules for rebounding regarding to free throws? So starting off with you, Coach Ryan.
Yes. I think that having offensive rebounding strategies on free throws and defensive rebounding strategies are really important. So what we would do and have the philosophy on is we would put defensive rebounder, our best defensive rebounder, on the single side against your second best offensive rebounder. We would put our 2 players on the side of your best offensive rebounder and pinch him off. We would let our best defensive rebounder go one-on-one with your second best offensive rebounder, and then we would have the guard on that side. So let's say he's one-on-one here. He would come and pinch down on the backside. And then this may be –
Oh, there's
Hopefully
already,
that's what you're talking about.
it's
That
already working something.
yes. So, but for us, this would be X5 against their 4 and X4 and X3 against their 5. Otherwise, exactly the same way. And then offensive rebounding, we would try to X out. So have 5 go over top and then 4 go.
Yeah. So, and that's also, if I'm correct, the rules on it are different with FIBA comparing to NBA, in which you can run into to go get the rebound from out of the 3-point line, if I'm correct.
On the release.
Yeah, in comparing to, if I'm correct, FIBA is on the rim, right? Or
no, it's on the release.
it's both on the release. Okay, no, perfect. Then
either that or we would have gotten a lot of violations in Jerusalem.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so somebody else was already responding. I think it's on the rim, but yeah, it's something the refs don't really look at. But and in offensive wise, how would you do that in offense? If your guy is shooting 2 and you're standing there in the offensive rebound.
For me, I want to X out. I can show clips of it if people want to see it, but Xing out, which is basically what Sigma was doing on those free throw offensive rebounds. And then if teams are trying to load up and pinch you off, we would fake hide and then roll under the baseline like you saw clips of Josh Owens doing.
Yeah. No.
But I think anytime you can steal possessions, right, it gives you an advantage. That's that tactical side to it. And I'm happy to show clips if people want to see, but for sure everyone's seen the way that Zalgiris or whoever, even Alba Berlin, the way that they X those 2 guys out, right, to just try to generate extra possessions.
Yeah. So, Coach Jimmie, would you like to elaborate on that PDF file you showed us with what you guys are doing for defense and offense?
Yeah, I stole that from somebody else. That was another video that I saw, but it covers exactly what we're talking about. And same thing Coach was just mentioning, pinching one guy and then have one guy get the shooter. On the other side, you're using the outside guy to come in pinch with this solo guy. Nothing too different there defensively that we do. So
I will say the Erie BayHawks, we talked about it, we practiced it, and we sucked at it. Our guard every time would forget to go box out the freaking free throw shooter. It was unbelievable.
We were really good at it, and the one time we didn't do it, we lost the game because of it. So it was just a teaching point from there on out that we knew, like, shit, you better do this because we lost the game because of it. So
yeah, I don't know how much our guys cared.
So I got another question from a coach. I think that's for you, Coach Ryan. Do you believe the tag up system will also succeed in the women's game?
Absolutely. So 2 things. One, Aaron Fern, legend. Davidson's women's college team sold a lot from him, and I believe maybe it was a New Zealand women's team. He went over a lot with them, and they saw drastic improvements. And I think they both just did clinics and numbers on it. Absolutely. I think it translates. I'm just a big believer in it. And the more that I watch, even the NBA, like I created what if scenarios with like the best fast break team in the NBA. And like, I just played out in my head, okay, if this guy tagged up here, this guy tagged up here. And I showed it to our assistants and okay, it's like everything. It's a theory. All theories work until someone kicks the shit out of you. But in theory, I think it worked at every level. If, like everything, you execute it right.
No, I think that is a perfect answer. I don't know, Jimmie, do you have any experience with the women's game as well, or how would you pick that up?
I think it might even work better on the women's side, to be honest, just as far as athletically. I think it'd be, I don't want to say dumb not to do it, but I think it's worth trying. I think it's harder the more athletic you go against, but I think there's something to be said for that.
And it's in Europe, I mean, it's why it was so effective in Jerusalem, right? And your mentality is we're going to give up transition buckets. But think about it like this. If we are getting 24 offensive rebounds and you keep leaking two guys out, what are you going to tell those two guys that leak out? You're going to go no, you have to box out. Stop leaking out. All right. It's the same thing you're going to tell them as a coach. And, you know, did we have teams just try to leak a guy out and get a bucket? Yeah. Dijon tried to do that to us. You know, I think we had 24 offensive rebounds. So.
No, I think that's a great answer on that. I see Coach Chico is already dropping in the Aaron Fern basketball Emerson on YouTube, and we got some
Legend. He's a legend.
I think a lot of guys are going to watch that as well. I know in Antwerp we are keen on tagging up as well. And I just saw today, I analyzed a full game of Coach Chico Coronel, and I saw it as well, especially in Australia. What do you think that keeps that away from both Europe and the NBA?
I think in Europe teams will do it. I think the NBA teams will just be too conservative about transition defense. I mean, the guys are so athletic, so skilled to where if one guy forgets to tag up, right? I mean, they're skilled and athletic enough. It'll just be baseball pass dunk. And so I think it's something to where you have to have your players have got to buy into it. And if you got guys that are like, nah, we're going to give up transition buckets, you know, if you don't go all in on it, it's hard. And I think at the college level, the European level, the international game, even the G League game, right? You can coach the guys different to where like, all right, you don't want to do it, just sub out. But in the NBA, it's a player's game, right? And if your team isn't bought into it as a coach, there's zero chance you can do it. And obviously some teams may or may not buy into it, but you know, it's got to be a very established coach, you know, that goes in and tries, like if Greg Popovich is like, look, this is what we're doing, like, right, he can do it. If you're a rookie coach and you're trying to do it and you get fight from your players, it ain't going to work. And, you know, like I said, we had to transition. We were doing it. We were number one in offensive rebounds, number one in fast break points on fewest fast break points given up in the G League. And we had some personnel changes. We got smaller, less physical guys. I didn't coach it as well. And then, you know, they just started being lazy and we were getting beaten in transition. So I had to revert to sending 5 back. But next year I'll try to do it again.
So you better be prepared, Jimmie. So I got a coach that even tried the tagging up, and he found out that the perimeter guys were overrunning the rebounds and getting too deep. Is there any specific distance you would suggest or an area you tried the guys to run to?
Yeah, you can't overrun. You know, the whole purpose of tagging up is getting high side, driving them under. I can show some clips real quick of it if someone wants to see it.
I think if you have those, that will be perfect. So and then going to Jimmie in the meantime, what would you think if you heard the tagging up system right now? Just the first thought that pops into your mind about beating that system. If you had one thought that comes into your mind.
I think we would just kind of like, luckily, I think our scheme is built for that. Now it would cause us more problems just because we try to keep our 5 guys inside your 5, but it would reduce our offensive efficiency, which I think is a risk reward to each type of thing that you're doing. And, you know, I think there were some games that we got out rebounded just because they did send guys that were unusually not going. Like some teams sent some guards that our guards were not used to boxing out. They usually teaming up on the double team box outs, and we lost the one on the glass that game. But anything sort of unconventional is going to cause problems. And I don't think there's any easy way to kind of go. If you have better players, they're going to be able to break you down in transition. We'd let any 5 of our guys push in transition. So that would be one area I think that we might be able to exploit it. But other than that, there's nothing, like no cookie cutter way to kind of do it.
Oh, perfect. Coach Ryan, if you're ready to show some clips.
I'm fine. Then 1 second. I apologize. I will find them and show them the beauty of tagging up. trying to think of what I have it saved
Oh,
under.
so we got more of a personal question popping in. I don't know if you mind answering it. Like
I
you
do
answered,
not mind.
you said that due to the coaching you stopped doing the tagging up, if I'm correct. And or due to bad coaching, what would you do different to do it next year?
Hold them accountable every time, and if you don't do it, just take you out of the game. You have to coach it every possession, all practice long. Your assistants have to coach it every practice, all practice long. And if a guy isn't going to do it, just go put him with the strength coach and let him run, take him out of the game. Nobody is above the system. This is what we're doing. And, there's enough guys. If you can coach your team that way, right, guys are what motivates every player. Everyone wants to play. So, okay, you don't want to do it, no problem, get out. We don't have I think accountability creates buy-in on everything that you're trying to do. And I didn't do a good enough job holding our players accountable to that because as a first-year team, as an expansion team, it's so many other issues to deal with, and I think that became really hard. And like I said, I didn't do a good enough job coaching it. I just didn't do a good enough job coaching it.
Okay, perfect. Just waiting for you to get those clips up. If you have them, just give us a heads up.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm getting somewhere.
yeah, no, I'm working through more questions, so I'm just looking for the right one to ask you guys in the meantime. If I'm getting
Yahtzee. Got it. Yahtzee. 1 second, and I will pull
get
it
it.
up. Okay, so this is clips of Aaron's team. So it'll be quick, right? But here's the theory of it. Shot goes up. And so what you have to be really committed, especially at the higher level against a really good transition team, is not overrunning. Like Aaron doesn't want go get it, guys. He wants everyone to get on the backside, try to drive them in, and then get a chance at these 50-50 balls. So this is his team, the legend. And so if you just watch, right, they're just going high side, trying to get to the middle and get these rebounds that are outside 15 feet, or that could be 50-50 balls. So if you watch, their guys do a really good job of being committed to the high side, not creating an advantage, right? So here he's a little bit low side, so if he just runs, he could have the advantage on him, right? And then obviously this will be the shooters matchup in transition. But I think you have to have a dedicated team to the strategy. You have to have guys that are really bought into this is going to make us better. This is going to help us win. I think you can sell it as you're going to generate more rebounds, more points, more assists. So better for your stats, better for your personal self, which is how I sold it early. And we were good at it. Coming out of preseason, we did a good job. Same thing you see here, high side. Right, and so then if you're a full court pressing team, it allows you to be right there on the catch to press. So like take for Ludwigsburg, like I was talking with John Patrick about it, who presses the entire game. I think it'd be super beneficial. Right, but here you can watch the dedication to high side. Everyone is high side. You're always between your man, okay, and your basket defensively. I think there's one or two more clips.
So in the meantime, Coach, we had a question about the tagging up. Would you tag up against a team that switches as it would cause regular mismatches on the tag up? Or would you switch back once you come back in transition?
For me personally, I would still tag up because at the end of the day, I'm a big believer of trapping the post. And, at the end of the day, if your philosophy is to trap the post, like when I was a head coach in Europe, we trapped every single post up. good post player, bad post player didn't matter, right? So I think that creates the advantage that falls into that philosophy anyways. And so if not, if you get really good at the NBA term is scramming, right? So you try to front on the pass in, scram out, double down, whatever your philosophy is. But I would have zero hesitation of doing it against switching defense because it's also going to create that offensive advantage of the big, your guard now trying to box out my big. So.
No, I think that's a perfect answer. I think I got all the questions if I'm correct. I just want to wrap up the meeting. If coaches have any more questions on the rebounding stuff, where could they find you or how could they connect with you? Via
Sure.
Twitter
So
or-
I have I have a bunch of international offenses. I've got from all different coaches all around the world, Australia, Europe, the NBA, and the game situations on We Transfer. So if anyone wants that, feel free to email me as well. If anyone wants information on this or other, Jerusalem's offense, which led Champions League in scoring the last 2 years and had the greatest offensive efficiency. If anyone wants any of that information, my email is ryanpannone@gmail.com. That's RYAN, P as in Paul, ANNONE @gmail.com. My WhatsApp number is +1 727 251 4525. If anyone has any questions, wants anything, wants these videos, any presentation, all of the European offenses that I've collected, just shoot me an email. Happy to share anything that we have.
No, that would be perfect. I already saw that Coach Jimmie was putting his Twitter handle and his email on.
Oh, man, those technological guys are on it. We put it in the chat too.
Yeah, I already put your email address in the chat. In the meantime, I wasn't that quick with the number, but I'm sure if guys send you an email, you can or you can respond to that in the chat as well.
Yeah, I'll put my information in the chat now.
Yeah, and I will give
Jimmie's.
the guys some time to take either take a picture or anything like
We
that.
talk about guys like Jimmie. Jimmie is a smart motherfucker. Reads books and all this stuff down.
No, I will just wait for you to put it out on the chat. Jimmie, thank you very much. Really enjoyed the part as well for the defense stuff. I hope that the situation over there gets better pretty soon, and hopefully you guys can go out on the court again. For you as well, of course, Coach Ryan. And I'm just happy you wanted to share your knowledge on this topic. And I'm already looking forward to the next one. I already got some great leads to people I can ask for it. And therefore, I want to thank you guys for this moment. And have a good one tonight for you. And we will go to sleep over here.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Jimmie.
Thanks, guys.
Coach. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
See you.
Thank you so much, y'all. Awesome.